Hello everyone and welcome back to the Young Person Show on GFM, hosted by Future Me Gloucestershire. My name is Beth, you may have heard me on here a couple of weeks ago, and today in the studio I'm joined by Morgan and Ben, who we will get to talking to later in the show. Now, as stated earlier, I'm joined by the studio today with Morgan and Ben. So I was just wondering if you guys could give a quick introduction of yourselves and say a little bit about your role at Future Me. So Ben, if you want to take it.
Yeah, hey everybody, I'm Ben. I'm an engagement and participation officer with the Future Me project, and I get to work with our very talented team of youth reps, including Beth and Morgan here. And that's kind of me. Morgan?
Hello everyone, my name is Morgan Phelps. I'm 21 years old and I'm a representative at Future Me.
Awesome, thank you guys. So yeah, like I said, joined by Morgan and Ben, and we will get to talking to them a little bit more later on. Now, this October on Future Me, we've been dedicating a lot of time to the work we're doing with GFM, and it's been, an incredibly exciting opportunity to reach out to many different communities in Gloucestershire. To note, October has also been Black History Month, a topic that we yet to cover, but we knew from the beginning of these shows we wanted to uplift Black voices, and so earlier this month, a fellow youth rep, Olivia, went out and did just that, hosting an interview with Selena Carty, the founder of the charity Black Poppy Rose. Here is what was said.
So in the wake of Black History Month, I caught up with Selena, the founder of Black Poppy Rose, and asked her a few questions. Here's what she had to say. Just starting off nicely, what are the aims of Black Poppy Rose?
So the aims of Black Poppy Rose are to empower and educate the entire world around historical narratives that combine all people, all cultures, all heritage, all genders, all sex, all things that make us humans on this planet, and to be able to understand circumstantial facts and historical events that have impacted our lives, our presents, our past, and our futures.
Great. So to what extent do you think that the role of Black soldiers is portrayed in the media, and is enough being done?
Well, over the last 10 years, more has been done that has been done for the last 90 years. And I'm not sure whether or not that's because there was an additional visibility of that, because Black Poppy Rose is 11. And just before we embarked upon the centenary of 2014, I had started a conversation around what is Blackness, why were we in these wars, how it's impacted our communities, and look at the stories that have been left out, and for young people who were growing up in this country told that they were being untruthful when they said that their ancestors had served, when they had, items, memorabilia, discharge papers at home to prove that. And when you're coming from the United Kingdom, whose narratives do you put forward? You put the people from this land forward. And the people from this land, they look white, and they're the mass majority here. But when it comes down to talking about Britain as an empire, I don't think it's easy to just talk about the empire just to say an empire existed, because history shows that the army were the biggest purchasers of slaves during a time period where they were enlisting men into service into their armies. And in 1807, when we had the abolition of the Slave Trade Act, we have Britain enlisting the captured Africans that they had captured from France and Spain and Portugal, again enlisting them into lifelong services into their armies, and women and children into the plantations in the West Indies. So when it comes down to talking about the visibility of those who served, it empowers a community to understand that they matter. It empowers a community to understand that they have a place here. And when we look at the history of this country and the world, it always shows a certain level of displacement for groups of people. So we have, keep Britain white, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. You're unable to talk about the pride and the shame at the same time when you're talking about a history where racism has actually capitalized on ensuring that men and women who served have been disproportionately paid, treated, but then combine that history and narrative at the same time.
How far do you think that generational trauma in Black communities has an impact on young people's transition from childhood to adulthood?
15 generations.
Mm.
And I, as a genealogist, I classify 15 generations over 300 years. So every 100 years, we should have between 4 to 5 generations based on people having their children in their, early 20s to 25. So if they're having them later, then it would result in us having 4 generations, but history doesn't show us that. So it's generally about 5 generations per 100 years. And when you get to the end of those 100 years, you then lose the generation from 100 years before, because that's just through age and through lifestyle and changes and developments and things. But what you do is you pass on names, you pass on pain, you pass on trauma, blueprints, frameworks, ideologies, concepts, foods, recipes, practices, religions, and various different concepts of historical understanding and belonging. And you pass those on generation to generation, of which this is how we identify ourselves, and we start to classify who we are in the worlds that we live in. And when you're coming from the Black community, who are continuously being classified as different things, terming from Negro to Black to African Caribbean and all other terms that have been gifted, you lose that sense of identity along the way, because you're trying to fit in to an ideology of a world that tells you where you should belong, how you should belong, and continues to marginalize you as you continue to try and fit in to the narrative that has been gifted.
What would you say to young people, especially the Black youth, about growing up and the difficulties and struggles that come with life? What advice would you give people?
What advice would I give people? I would give parents the advice to start being truthful to their children, so that you prepare them for some of the situations that they may come in contact with, so that they are prepared with confidence to be able to confront any kind of, adversity that comes their way, whether or not they need to run or whether or not they need to stand and, fight. But when it comes down to living, we're all living every day, we all have new experiences, and there are a lot of things that we aren't comfortable talking about. So with young people, I would definitely encourage, your thoughts and your feelings, share them with people that you trust, share them with, your peers, to be able to see what kind of conversations you can start having, so you can work out how to take those thoughts and feelings forward, because it's those thoughts and feelings that allow you to develop the person that you understand yourself to be, not the one that society enforces on top of you, or allows you to be able to explore and express things that you could have never felt before, because we're new to this human experience. And when somebody's classifying you, it doesn't give you the opportunity to actually think, well, what did I think in the first place? Where was my original thought? Because somebody else has already given me one that I now have to process and work out whether or not I take option A or B. Whereas if I actually had the chance to, I may have been able to get to option F. And that was, where I was most settled. So it's to take time with when you look at the world and you see that so many things are wrong. We were born into a world which sustains itself based on the history that we are now beginning to learn. And as a result of that, we find ways how to fix some of these problems, but we did not make them. And it's try not to burden yourselves with the fact that, there's so much that needs to be fixed, so much that needs to be done. You are one person, we are all one person, and we are here to do one thing. And to look at how you understand these terms, education, and how you're able to apply that education to developing something that you will then want to enjoy doing in your future.
If a young person wants Black Poppy Rose pins or other Black Poppy wreath or anything like that sent to their schools or community, how should they get around doing that?
info@blackpoppyrose.org.
Mm-hmm. I thought it would be a nice, short, snappy one to end on. I know that I'm going to be talking to my head teacher about this tomorrow to try see what we can do to get some of this in. So it's info@blackpoppyrose.org.
It's send people to the website, let them see what's available. It's info@blackpoppyrose. It's contact us. It's book a discovery call, have a conversation, because for change to happen, you have to understand why you want the change in the first place. And a lot of people aren't ready for the change, and that's fine. There are a lot of people who are ready, and we will be here for whenever they are ready. And that's the process of growth and development, because anything in history is about when people are ready and what it actually means for them to do something that is not quite inside the box that we're used to.
I hope you enjoyed this little snippet. If you want to hear the full interview, it will be over on our YouTube, where we've asked many more questions. It is in much more depth.
Now, before moving on, a massive, massive thank you to Selena for talking with us and to Olivia for holding that interview. Again, like what was said, if you want to listen to the whole interview, make sure to check out Future Me on YouTube or on our social medias. Now, Morgan, a couple of weeks ago, you very kindly shared your experience of mental health and anxiety on the show. Just a quick question, how did you find that?
Well, at first, when I was doing the interview, it was intimidating because in my back of my head I was thinking about this is going to be shared with a lot of people, but I found it in the end empowering because it shows how far I've come, at least from back then, how much I've improved in dealing with it to the point where I can just expressively just talk about it on the show.
Yeah.
And I just really hope that other people out there that listen to it kind of relate to that experience and maybe hope that it just encourages them to feel better about themselves and seek help, maybe.
Yeah, and I think, it's really amazing that you did that. And I think, Ben, you'll agree with me when saying, it was, an amazing interview and definitely really helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like we discussed before, I don't think there's anything more important than, listening to someone else's experience and knowing you're not kind of alone in different situations and things you do, knowing there's other people going through the same thing, getting through it and how they overcame it I think is a really powerful thing. And I think the interview you did was brilliant, for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely, something that you should be, proud of, really, and like I said before, we're trying with Future Me to kind of uplift lots of different voices in the community, and at Future Me we're very, very focused on getting the voices of young people out there. So just to say, you can find more shared experiences amongst people in Gloucestershire on our resource packs, of which you can find by heading to Future Me Gloss on Instagram and clicking the link in our bio. So staying with the topic of mental health, Martha, who you've heard on the show before, she was in here last week, recently hosted an interview with the Gloucestershire Health and Care Foundation Trust, specifically about Young Minds Matter and school nursing. Let's hear what was said.
It's great to be chatting with you today. Welcome, and how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks, Martha.
Brilliant. So welcome along to the show. We're reflecting on the month of October, and we did a show a couple of weeks ago focusing on mental health, and the 10th of October was World Mental Health Day. And we're also having a think about things we wish we had a bit more information about. So working on the Future Me project, mental health is an ongoing discussion that we're having all of the time, really, and it's always evolving, and the more we learn about it, the better. So we'd love to get some more information to our listeners and followers about how young people's mental health is supported in Gloucestershire, and we're hoping that you might be able to shed a bit more light on that with us. Does that sound good?
That's great, thanks.
So just to start with, could you let our listeners know what your professional role is and what organisations you work for and how those different organisations sort of interplay?
Okay. So my background is in nursing, but I'm currently the operational lead for Young Minds Matters. Sometimes they're referred to as well as the mental health support teams. And we're employed by Gloucestershire Health and Care NHS Trust as part of CAMHS. So we are a school-based service. So we're currently in 72 schools across the county and expanding, offering low-intensity mental health services to children within those schools. But as I say, we're due to expand soon into some of the other schools in the county.
That's brilliant. It's good to know how they all interrelate, the kind of the body that sits behind things that are happening in schools. It's great to hear that there is stuff on hand like Young Minds Matter in schools. So I know we're going to speak to a mental health nurse as well, but I just wondered if you could let our listeners know what someone might expect from their visit to the school nurse for the first time, and what help a school nurse might be able to offer for mental health. And if you want to pass that question, you can.
I think I'll pass that on to Bridget, if that's okay.
Hello, my name's Bridget Davis and I'm head of the school nursing service in Gloucestershire and work alongside Sharon and the Young Minds Matters team. We are school nurses who are registered NHS nurses who visit schools, and while we're in schools we can see young people who want to drop in and see us and talk to us about any health matter that they might have. So it might be a worry about a physical health problem, or often children and young people will come and talk to us about emotional and mental health worries that they might have. It might be exam stress or bullying or anxiety or worries about relationships, anything really that's bothering them, they can come and talk to us about.
For some young people, they may have a bit of worry about going to the school nurse, maybe because they worry they might get noticed by their peers if they kind of leave a lesson or something like that. So what would your reply be to that kind of concern? If somebody was withholding going to see the school nurse because they were worried about kind of that it might make their bullying worse maybe, or that they might get noticed in a bad way by their peers?
So the school nurses are generally in places that are less often seen by members of staff or other young people that attend the school. We work alongside the school, and the school will allocate us a room, and the room will be the same room every week. So if a young person is worried about coming to see a school nurse and being seen, then I would suggest that they come right at the beginning of the drop-in session when there's less people in the corridors. They're allowed to miss lessons to see a school nurse if they want to, and the best person to see to arrange that would be somebody in their pastoral support team or one of the deputy heads, one of the leadership team, and just say that they want to see the school nurse. They don't have to explain why they want to see the school nurse, but if they need special permission to leave a class, then that's who that they would contact within the school. But our service is confidential. We don't have to talk to anybody in the school about what people want to talk to us about. So not to feel worried about us breaking any confidence or about school inquiring about what might have been discussed.
Those are the reassuring words of Bridget Davis, who works for the NHS in Gloucestershire as the operational and professional head of school nursing. I'll be carrying on the conversation with Bridget and Sharon, her colleague, after this short break. I've picked up my conversation with Bridget Davis and Sharon Holmes about mental health and school nursing, and it's to Sharon who I turn to expand on the question of confidence amongst young people at school, and the fact that some of us may not wish or feel confident to approach a school nurse.
Yeah, I think in terms of Young Minds Matters and the school that we're in as well, I think one of the messages that I would probably like to get out, that there's probably amongst your peers, there's people feeling the same way, and it is really important to kind of reach out and ask for help and tell somebody that you might be struggling. And it sometimes takes courage to do that, but if you can manage to do that, then
that's so true, isn't it? That nobody's alone, and that oftentimes people are experiencing the same things without realising. So I just wanted to ask as well of you both, if sort of outside of the school nursing support, what other are there any other services that you wish young people knew more about, sort of within your area of work?
I think that there's a lot of development happening at the moment. So over the next sort of kind of 12 months with Young Gloss, we're developing pathways, in partnership with them, looking at self-referral through, web-based services. So looking at digital solutions to how children can maybe more easily navigate the mental health system and get the support they might need. So that's something I think that I'm really keen to get the message out there, that it's really important to kind of keep an eye on things in the next 12 months as they develop, and people can do that through the CAMHS Instagram. So that's something I'd really recommend that people sign up to, so they can actually see the developments as they're happening.
That's great advice, yeah, and that would be available to people who aren't at school anymore as well, is that right? So,
yeah, so 16 to 25.
Brilliant, yeah, because I think a lot of our conversations can sometimes revolve around what's in place in the school system, and obviously a lot of young people have moved on from school, or they might not be currently in school for whatever reason, so to know that there's other support extra to that is really, really helpful. Thank you.
And I think that's a really good point as well, Martha, that school nurses have school in their title, but that's because they're available for school-aged children, not just children and young people who attend school. So we can also provide a service and see young people who are educated at home, who aren't in mainstream schools, or who are absent from school for whatever reason. So we have a website that you can find out our contact details. So just Google School Nurses Gloucestershire and you'll be able to find our website, and you can find out our contact details and how to make an appointment to come and see us. But we also have a texting service that's available to anybody who lives in Gloucestershire or goes to school in Gloucestershire, aged between 11 and 19. And the texting service is called Chat Health, and you can text any worry or concern that you might have, and it will be responded to by a qualified school nurse. And we aim to answer within the day. Sometimes it's within minutes and sometimes it's within a couple of hours, but certainly within the same day you should get a response.
So I know I'm going to continue this conversation with Becky, who is a school nurse. So tune back in, everyone listening to that in a few weeks' time when we talk to Becky. But just to ask you both really if there was anything further you'd want to add at all.
Really, Martha, I was just going to mention that our YMM chat service as well in the schools that we're in for Young Minds Matters. So again, it kind of mirrors some of the school nursing offer, and in relation to mental health you can text to get some advice and information, and you can also self-refer through that system, and the details of that are found within school.
I think the biggest message I would like to get out to young people is that everybody from time to time has worries and anxieties about their mental health or their physical health or relationships, and it's really important to talk to somebody that you trust, anybody that you trust. And if it's somebody in school or a school nurse, or if it's a trusted adult within your family, just talk. There's that strap line, it's good to talk, but it really is. So I think for any young person that might be listening to this that is worried about anything, find somebody that you know you can trust and talk to them.
Connect. And it is okay not to be okay, and that's the starting point. So yeah, as Bridget says, find someone to connect with.
Brilliant. Thank you. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself, and yeah, that's a great point to end on, really. So just thanks so much for your time today, both of you. It's been lovely to meet you, and I'm looking forward to catching up more with Becky, one of the school nurses, really soon.
Thanks, Martha.
It's been lovely to be with you today.
And if you would like to find out more about any of the services mentioned in this interview, you can visit www.ghc.nhs.uk.
That was thank you, Martha, and to Gloucestershire Health and Care Foundation Trust for holding that interview. It was super informative and, really interesting to listen to, and again, it's great to kind of talk about mental health again and the services available to young people because, as we all know, it's a topic that is so important. Thank you again to Gloucestershire Health Care and Foundation Trust for speaking with us. So, just a big thank you to everybody for listening today. And, before we go, we also kind of want to thank GFM for giving Future Me, such a warm welcome to the radio this month. We have very, very thoroughly enjoyed it. I just want to speak to Ben for a second just to reflect on our time on the radio. I think you'll agree with me in saying it's been kind of one of the most interesting opportunities we've had at Future Me so far.
Yeah, I think it's an absolutely great opportunity. I think it's been brilliant to get the reps, you guys, to experience something new. Hopefully we're reaching new people we weren't reaching before, getting involved in something that I think is really exciting. I think everyone in the team has done a stellar job, and thank you to GFM for having us, and it's going to be exciting coming back again.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, I can definitely say for myself, I've been on twice, and it's been really, really cool, and I think I can speak for all of the presenters and all of the guests. in saying that it's been, you know, a really, really exciting opportunity. So I hope, you know, all of the young people listening and all of the people in general, you know, have enjoyed listening to what we have to say. We cannot wait to be back in December for more young people's shows, and we kind of want to hear what you guys want to hear us talk about, because obviously this is the young person show for young people, and at Future Me we're all about getting, you know, young people's voices out there. So make sure to check out Future Me Gloucestershire on social media and send us a message about what topics you think that we should be covering, because we would really, you know, really love to hear them and take them in.